cracks on your rusty frame, stuck in the mud, oh, but it's okay. I don't have the pieces of your home, buried in the flashbacks. All these wicked nightmares have gone cold. Now we go way, way back, as far as way back goes. Still standing by your side. You know I'll be right here when all the monsters come. Oh, I've got you. You grew old in suburbia, where pretty demons never show, shifting shapes in millenniums, but you're okay. I don't have the pieces of your home, buried in the flashbacks. All these wicked nightmares have gone cold. Now we go way, way back, as far as way back goes. Still standing by your side. You know I'll be right here when all the monsters come. Oh,
It's a big topic of discussion for everybody in Beach Creek and what's happening with that. And I honestly think I had done a video or two that day, that evening. I don't recall if they're open or not, but if they are, they're there, and they're just hours before Summer goes missing. So anyway, that was at least most of the interaction with JD. The guy was a little off. The only vehicle I saw parked there that day was the blue Trailblazer, older. The next day, as y'all seen and heard, things started changing, which we first took to be rumor, and I still, there are questions about things, even for we who were up close and personal with these situations and had visual on all of this for the duration.
Hey, everyone. You're going to have to go to Fizzle's channel to see the context of that video. But it makes you tend to think that she's speaking of the day that she ran into Dobbs. And then she goes on to say that on that day, she did 2 videos, which were hours before Summer went missing. I just found that pretty odd, so I added it at the beginning of this video. I'll put you the link in the descriptions so you can go look at the context and see what you think, and then let me know in the comments below.
But how or why did I believe that to be true as well? Summer was not inside of that house. She was outside. In this morning's video from Michelle After Dark, she's puzzling over why Candace would have said this and the other, why she locked herself into, and she's not far off, and it's things I've stated in my videos very early on. In this, I think the same thing Michelle does, it was to look better than, but also because the CPS visit was the next day, and maybe we'll leave the other kids alone. I think there's several reasons why she tried to make it look like whatever at first, and I think locking herself into maybe a timeline that's not right. And
So, how does she know that Summer was outside that day? That's my question. With such certainty, she says Summer was outside that day, and that Candace has locked herself into a timeline that Jodiesue doesn't seem to like. Why is that?
If the scream holds, if my timeline holds, then that would be, 30, 32 to 608, about an hour and a half difference from, the time she vanished.
What do you mean if your timeline holds? If the cops can't disprove your timeline, is that the if it holds you're speaking of?
I think Michelle and half the world are right. I think Candace did not have eyes on her for that long, had really no clue where she was at. I think it does boil down to that. And I mean, honestly, been better off saying that from the get-go to a cop and going, hey, my kid was playing outside. We live in Illinois. That would not have been unusual, quite frankly. But I think that she wanted to present the best possible, because DCS was showing up the next day.
Or somebody gave Candace a script that she was sticking to. That would make sense.
There could be many reasons for it, but that's always been my theory behind it. But still, yet, because of other things that were said to me in the first few minutes as Candace and I initially made contact at the bottom of the driveway and under the creek area, and other things that were said to me that day. Because of those far deeper for me, especially with what's being done lately as far as that Facebook video chat that happened between Candace and I, and her wanting me to change my story and an audit money, and that bullshit called the feds that have her and keys written on it, and it makes me doubt all kinds of things.
Why does it always have to circle back around to money with you? Can one video that you do not involve money in any part of it? That would be great.
And there's things I'm still not going to touch on, give specifics on, but I will say enough to say that donate, and I hate that because obviously there's some bus throwing under there and all kinds of weirdness and abuse on that lip, but yeah, Summer was not in the house, and I think Candace did lock herself into a timeline. I think 90% of that bullshit with the flowers. I mean, yeah, I'm with Michelle. I think details were given to make everything look better, like a piece of candy and this and that, whatever the hell else. And from things.
So you're pretty sure that Summer was outside that day. Do you have video? Do you have proof?
Things I know that, like I said, I'm not going to say. I don't think anybody knew, except for one or two, that I don't think anybody had any freaking clue where Summer actually was, but I think that Candace thought she'd be found in short order, just like mentioned forever ago in other videos about the other one being lost at one point and everybody having to find them. And they were non-verbal at the time. I think she thought it would be Summer found in short order by the neighbors, by police, and it would be a big of a deal. But it was that big of a deal. Very.
Yes, it was that big a deal. Because at this time, when you did this video back in September, you knew that Andy was selling drugs to Candace to sedate the kids so they could be touched. You conveniently leave that part out here. You want to tell your narrative, what you want the people to believe, which has been a lot of misinformation on your part.
Short one. And then I think even this continuing bullshit could just be normal behavior patterns, right? For them, like basic people. So to them, it's like, well, yes, Summer's probably gone, and one way or the other, and so we might as well profit and play games that entertain us and pranks and calls and all this other bullshit, and no big fucking deal, right?
Oh, yeah, no big deal, right? Because they already knew Summer wasn't coming back. They already knew what happened to Summer that day. You knew what happened to Summer that day. And I think we're getting to the point where you began to become jealous of all the money Candace and Dawn was dragging in, even though they were doing their pranks and their bullshit that a normal parent of a missing child would never do. But you go on and you tell us your narrative, because a lot of things have come out between now and back then.
And now then the pranks, bullshit, the money matters more, maybe in a way. And even yet, I mean, there could be reasons for all of that same behavior, even either way, it's cut. But to me, that first day, it's what it seems like. And because, like I said, other things I know that I'm still not going to say, but
The other things like Andy selling drugs to Candace so she could sedate the girls so they could be touched. Conveniently, you leave that out. And also, that them same drugs were used in Utah to do the same things to other children. So I think somebody should probably let Utah know that there's victims there as well.
I really, really, truly believe she was outside, just like Dawn stated as well on several interviews, and and like I mean, like yeah. Um,
I thought Dawn said she was inside, that she went downstairs to the bedroom, which was a dungeon, and that's where she disappeared from. That's my recollection of what Dawn said.
and for reasons I won't say, but yeah, definitely outside. And I think Candace locked herself into shit. And it's a conversation Candace and I had, at the bottom after summer. I was like, well, look, I'm sorry, my shit might break your shit, but that's just the way it is. And she never.
The conversation you and Candace had at the. You didn't finish that sentence. And your shit might break her shit because you all were involved, allegedly, in the disappearance of Summer Moon, Utah Wells. And y'all were also complicit in children in Utah also being drugged and or sedated. It's really disturbing.
Really touched on it, which is what I found odd about that Facebook vid chat between us. It's like, she never asked me to change my story or to do anything like hers until that shit. And then winking on it money. Now, you can tell she was digging for somebody and doing something. Worried about her own teeth and this and it's like, what the fuck? And that's why I said, like, dude, if your kid's missing, it's like, no, they're all like jacked up because of radiation. My kid's missing, I don't give a fuck. Like, I'm gonna, hell be damned. Like, kid first, teeth later, money later. Like, what the hell?
What the hell is, y'all knew where Summer was. Y'all knew what happened to Summer, allegedly. And why should she put money on the back burner for her children? Because you've not put money on the back burner for yours, even though that's what you just said. We all know that's not true. You've extorted your children till the cows come home.
But definitely digging up shit somebody else's past during that vid chat between us. Definitely more worried about money, but maybe it's just type of people they are and all these things just I know they are, I know they are. I know somehow they're behind.
They're that type of people, just like you are. I know they are. I know you are. Everybody on YouTube knows y'all are.
That call the feds after they called them and didn't know what was going on, and then to do the vid chat with me 3 days later because nobody bothered to tell me anything. To twist and do that to target my children and I is just a fucking gross ass thing to me. But that's another.
That's the grossest thing to you. Somebody allegedly targeting your children, but not Andy selling drugs to Candace so they could sedate the children so the kids could be touched. Or them drugs being part of something more sinister that happened to other children in Utah that you know about. Your words.
Level of game, and I doubt all kinds of things across the board at this point, and I don't know what the hell to think. But I know now that the heel is just, I've always known, but dude, this is an entire level of different, screwed up. But Michelle After Dark is one of the only ones I've actually seen trying to puzzle through this, and I know that it's often that she actually does bother watching videos and things, and she'll find things that I say and this and the other, and then be able to put them into a more linear fashion, more digestible fashion, to where they're easier for others to digest and follow along than I can make things. Unfortunately, that's one of the things that, all kinds of things have cast all kinds of stuff into doubt for me. The behavior recently off the hill, what they're trying to do, what they're trying to use Andy for, it's gross. What they've done since, that I absolutely feel inside my soul and pick up little pieces of, because when they're the only ones on earth saying it, and then it comes to me in the form of feds not, like knock at the door prior, and then 3 days later here they are digging in skis, and then the same bullshit because they don't know what's happened with their bullshit calling and these hoaxes and all these prank bullshits, even on his sisters, who I know aren't lying, because I knew this from the first posts they made online that weren't written for them, because they knew enough about Utah that I knew they weren't lying.
Because they knew enough about Utah that you know they weren't lying. But when the feds knocked on your door, you didn't tell them about the kids being sedated so they could be touched. You didn't tell them you were standing in front of Andy, protecting him from the feds. But let's hear that one more time about Utah.
His sisters, who I know aren't lying, because I knew this from the first posts they made online that weren't written for them, because they knew enough about Utah that I knew they weren't lying.
They knew enough about Utah that you know they weren't lying. What was it about Utah other than children being sedated so they could be touched? That was important then. That's important now. It's weird how slowly things are coming out of your mouth. But at this point, nobody will believe you. So no matter how much you know or how much the feds find out is true, I don't think you have a prayer saving your ass.
My sisters, who I know aren't lying, because I knew this from the first posts they made online that weren't written for them, because they knew enough about Utah that I knew they weren't lying. And I never doubted him. But then Don himself turns to me as one of their pals, and he's more worried about watching himself on YouTube and stopping that one night because he had taken me to town because my car was going to go off the cliff. So I gave him money and stuff to buy dinner and gave him like $20 for everybody had done an interview. And he was more worried about watching himself in that interview than anything. But he turns to me kind of distracted after passing. He's already telling me about how, yeah, he did that to his sisters. And then it's like almost the last thought, after he says it, and it's been a couple minutes, and he's driving all erratic and trying to watch at the same time with the volume and everything. It's like an afterthought. It's like, oh yeah, but it was their fault, and they were trying my dad too, and I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, that's what we're saying. What the F about the kids being sedated so they could be touched on that hill? You might as well come out to the feds and tell them everything you know, because you've already made yourself an accessory. The question is, was it during the crime or after the crime? Because you've already publicly acknowledged that you were covering for Andy, that you were standing in front of him. I just don't get it, Jodiesue. You're a mother. How could you allow any child to be victimized in that manner? That's disgusting. That's sickening. And I wonder, was it money that drove you to keep your mouth shut and standing in front of Andy? Was that money motivated? It's something that we all want to know. Because unlike you, every person who watches every video that comes out about Summer Wells, they care about Summer. And we don't have to know her to care about what happened to her. Because you're not her voice. You're no child's voice. You're a voice for the abusers. Your loyalty doesn't lie with Summer. It lies with the abusers.
Why he was potentially causing little girls over there to be sedated and to be touched with the shit he was selling over there. Go ask. Because I have fucking questions. Not standing in front of him anymore.
You have questions? No, you know the answers. You're just doing that now for show. You know the answers. You know what happened to Summer. And the sad part is, you want to pretend like you're Summer's hero, that you're the only one in the world that cared about Summer. But you knew all along that she was being sedated and touched. That's the sick part about it. Because if you would have told that to law enforcement in the beginning, you would have been her hero. You could have at least allowed her to have a proper burial. Because we all know, after 13 months, that she's not coming back alive. You know that. We know that.
So go ask. Because I still have fucking questions. And I think that it was occurring since before the Utah trip. It is part of why Josie was taken to Utah. Even though that's kind of a fucking lie, right? Why he went to Utah. But it's Andy's fault. And Candace's.
And yours. Because that Utah trip happened way before Summer disappeared. And you knew about it then. And you knew about it now. But you've been standing in front of them. And that's your words, not mine.
Remember Candace saying Josie was, or Alice, or one of them talking about how Josie was using, and it was the reason he was taken. It's not the reason Josie was taken out there. But shit occurring around that time is why. He's responsible for it. From before Utah until. So you go ask him why he was selling drugs to those children. And to Candace for the children. Go ask. And ask him what type other than weed.
Why should we ask him? You have the answers. You know what type other than weed. You know what they use to sedate them children. I just don't understand why y'all haven't all been locked up. As soon as you admitted to what was happening to the children on that hill, they should have come and arrested you. There's something funny here. And I'd really like to know who the cop was who showed up that day, who ran Dobbs off his own property. Because I think the Attorney General needs to look in to law enforcement. Because things aren't making sense at all. Why none of y'all have been took in and interrogated and arrested for the things that y'all have admitted to.
It's why one of the little girls, I think that around Utah, um, I think they were being given what Andy was selling, and I think it was used for very, very bad shit. Although I don't know if he knew or not.
You don't know if he knew or not, but you knew. That's the most disturbing thing is all this time later, you've known the whole time. And while you sit up there on your pedestal, you've been hiding the fact that children were being sedated and abused, not only on that hill, but in Utah. So hopefully, Utah will come and figure out what the hell was going on in their state.
But I know he had a feeling like I did that those little ones, something was happening to them over there. That's why I started digging. And then shit got weird. From further away. I don't care. I owe him loyalty no longer. I didn't want shit out in public realm for the sake of our kids, but I'm said I'll the fuck up. He can't even be bothered to pay child support. Yet he wants to come out here and make money on summer. I'm sure TM probably has a recording, quite frankly. Very much led to Utah took place and what happened after.
Utah took place, and then what happened after was the disappearance of Summer Moon Utah Wells. But you know what? You can start talking to my ass, because my hand can't even hear you anymore, Jodisue.
And I don't like a damn bit of it.
You don't like a damn bit of it, but you've been loyal to it. You've been hiding it. You've been aware of it. And you've admitted to it. I don't know what more these officers need. I don't know what more the state's attorney needs to arrest you and Andy, because you're admitting you knew them kids were sedated and abused. And you put it here on YouTube for the world to see, for the world to hear that you're loyal and standing in front of Andy knowing them kids, Summer Moon, Utah Wells, was sedated and touched by grown men.
And it's quite possible he was getting shit from over there on him, right? Because what's weird to me is he is certain that Candace and Vaughn murdered Summer. But yet they're still hanging the fuck out. And they still talk. I find it fucking weird.
He is certain that they murdered Summer because y'all know what happened that day.
I find it fucking weird. But I guess to keep each other's asses covered, right?
To keep each other asses covered and to keep your ass covered too. Don't leave yourself out.
Duff Towers and was known, I don't know, that he didn't do that second time. He would show it traveling, and he always dropped it off his parents and shit or left it. So, yeah. But I'm positive law enforcement knows.
You know, law enforcement knows. They know now.
But I'm very certain that what he was up to, Candace plays a role in harm that may have been occurring and happening to other kids, including one related to Squall. Months before.
Months before that you were aware of. Get off your high horse, because you're all going to end up in prison for what y'all did the Summer Moon Utah Wells, and the other children that were sedated and touched on that hill and in Utah.
You know, thing is, like, you know, he was up there the night before, right?
He was up there the night before. And is that when Summer Moon Utah Wells met her demise? Was the night before? And then you're thinking about what you just said. And then you're going to say for 20 or 30 minutes. Is that all it took to murder a poor, defenseless, helpless child? You're a bitch, Jody. You are a monster, along with Andy and Candace and whoever else played a role in the disappearance of Summer Moon Utah Wells.
15, 20 minutes, something like that. Maybe, I don't know, because he had dropped me off the food and stuff. Then he went back down the hill and went over there. But, and then everything the next day. But, I gotta tell you, it was always Candace being the one to really message.
Candace was the one to message, to get the drugs, to sedate the children. And you were aware of it then, and you're aware of it now. So you might want to start talking and telling law enforcement the rest of this shit, you know. So at least Summer can come home and have a proper burial. Because what y'all did is unforgivable.
So I don't know. Or could be, because even I don't know. But I had my fucking suspicions, for sure. Because it all coincides. I do know that it was around Utah. And I think it set off some events, and it's how Utah partially occurred. And then afterwards, some of the things I was seeing, I hadn't thought about it yet, you know. I thought, okay, I just there's so many parts I don't want to go into because they have to do with children. And I still don't want, you know what I mean? Still don't want anything like it really. But, I do find it weird that Dawn mentions the, Dawn and Candace or house call gets put on my Facebook, steals the videos, etc. Skull's the first place for the marathon idea that these bigger bunch went from Scott onward. Happened, right? How the marathon takes place. A good fucking reason for it. And he fully lost his shit because he knew what he'd have to say. If it ever went to court, it would out him with coleslaw. He knew why he was late that day. All these other things. You know, and the second phone, who knows what the fuck was on it. Can't tell you.
But you also knew why he was late that morning. Because you asked, did he show the pictures to whoever? You asked what they said. And he said, they said, don't be late. I told you. Don't be late. And you laughed about that.
And I know he also often carries mom and dad's cell phones as well. And they gave him those on purpose, you know, so they're to get up to fuckery. Because anytime they can create pain in my life, the world will help him cheat or do whatever they do. So it's like living around back in narcopaths that have all abused you since you were fucking 11 years old.
So, hey, Utah, you need to do something. Because there's children in your state who are also victims of being sedated and touched by these monsters that live on Ben Hill Road. And they're still walking free. And children are probably still victims of theirs. Somebody has to do something. Somebody has to lock these monsters up so another children or another child doesn't get sedated and touched by these monsters for their own sick fetishes and financial gain. Because the longer that they're walking free on the face of this earth, more children were subjected to the abuse that went on that hill and in Utah. They're also subjected to disappearing, to never be seen again. Another child's life is in danger as long as you allow these evil monsters who entered Summer Moon Utah Well's life to be free. This should never have happened. Don't let it continue to happen to another child by this group of monsters. Do something, Hawkins County. Do something, TBI. Lock them up. Stop the abuse now. Thanks, you guys, for watching. And continue to push for justice for Summer. And until next time.